Hi there people, how's it going? This is Across the Rubicon. Sunday morning here in North Canterbury, and I thought I'd make a video because there's been some news of late, the last 24 hours. I found out I was a bit late to the party with Dan Andrews, the Victorian governor, is he? Was it, or premier in Australia, has stepped down. Thank God for that. But what's going to replace him? Apparently a lady called Jacinta. Doesn't sound good, does it? But anyway, I've got a friend from New Zealand who's actually from the UK, and as a result of Dan Andrews standing down, he's going to move to Victoria. But I'm not sure it's going to be any better, but who knows? It might be. I think the odds are it won't be. I've got a bull looking right at me here. A young bull. Look at these, look. Yeah, I'm just walking back. I don't really like those horns. I feed them every day, but you just never know. But anyway, yeah, I watched a video just the other day of Klaus Schwab, and he made a speech. I thought the bull was coming behind me then. He made a speech about the people around the world rebelling against his plans and the plans of the WEF and their great reset. And he talked about the rebellion of people via the election of Donald Trump in 2016 and the more than possible re-election of Donald Trump in 2024. And he spoke about Brexit. And you know, he says, why don't one, well, he didn't say, but he's more or less saying, why don't people want to eat bugs? Why don't people want to be poor, have nothing and be happy? Why don't people want this? It's just, it defies belief. These people are so out of touch with normality, morality. They're out of touch with everything because they mix in circles, super elite circles of multi-billionaire psychopaths every year, and these people control the world, and they do. And politicians of every nation are desperate to get into the circles of Klaus Schwab and Yuval Noah Harari. Politicians, pop superstars like Bono and Bob Geldof, funny enough, both from Dublin, and Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, to name but a few, who, yeah, they get into these circles of super elite multi-billionaire psychopaths where they become completely detached from normality. It just makes you wonder how they get into these clubs. Literally, I mean, what do they have to do? What do they have to see? What do they have to partake in? What kind of secrets do they have to keep to stay in these clubs? Because there's no doubt, I think once you're in the club, the people like Klaus Schwab make them very, very successful if they're in the club. But if they don't join the club, then their success will maybe, just maybe, mediocre in comparison. But who knows? Last couple of days I've watched Winston Peters in New Zealand and defending things that he said. Winston Peters I've not been a fan of, and I was part of a group of people who confronted him just a few years ago in Cathedral Square in Christchurch, and we followed him down Colombo Street into Cashel Street, where we harangued him, and we did, deservedly so. He deserved the opprobrium of the people that day, although albeit there was about 15, maybe 20 of us. And I'll stand by that. Then. But Winston Peters, this past week or so, past few weeks, but definitely the past week, where he said in an interview, Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand. Now Winston Peters is Maori, part Maori. All Maori in New Zealand are part Maori. That's just a fact. Winston Peters is Maori, we'll just call him Maori rather than Pat Maori. He is Maori, he's a very seasoned politician, I think he's in his 70s, don't quote me about that, but I think he's 78. And even white, European, what they call in New Zealand, Pākehā journalists and anchors, especially women for some reason, are literally calling him out as a racist for saying Maori are not indigenous to New Zealand, which is a 100% fact. If I can say a 1,000,000% fact, it is a 1,000,000% fact. Because Maori say themselves they are the great navigators. They navigated themselves to New Zealand. They call themselves this, the great navigators of Polynesia, who navigated themselves to New Zealand. And at the same time, they say they're indigenous to New Zealand. So it's either. You can't be one and be the other at the same time, can you? But isn't it funny that journalists, academics, politicians, like Chris Hipkins, who speaks like this, I'm the Prime Minister. Winston Peters is so racist. Okay, taking the piss, but that's what they say, even though they know what I've just said. They will say they're the great navigators and they're indigenous at the same time. You can't be one and the other. You can't be. You either have to be one or the other. I'll tell you what, isn't it funny how these elites in Davos, World Economic Forum, United Nations, have passed down via memos, secret phone calls to politicians, prime ministers, cabinet members in all, mostly Western nations, to divide the people. Divide the people in their nations and keep them at each other. And one way to divide a people or divide a nation, people of the nation, is to support and fund very openly minority groups at the expense of the majority. That is the greatest way to divide a nation. That's what's happening. Here in New Zealand, in the United States, they're supporting people flooding over the border in the United States, giving them everything over and above the Native Americans that have paid taxes into the system all their lives. The government, or the Democrats at this time, Joe Biden, okay, they support them coming over the border more than the native population. When I say native population, I don't mean Native Americans, I mean Americans in general, the United States. In Britain, people flooding over from France in canoes, they literally get picked up by the Royal Navy 1-2 miles out from France. They picked up and put on Royal Navy ships and brought straight into Dover and offloaded and taken to hotels, costing the British taxpayer hundreds and hundreds of millions a year. And they are favoured. And if you say anything against it, you're a racist. And that's exactly what's happening in every other nation around the world, including here in New Zealand. And here we've got this rebellion, I would say, by radical Maori elites, led by, among others, or the face of it anyway, would be Rawiri Waititi, Debbie Packer, Willie Jackson, among others, academics, Maori academics, even white European academics as well, pushing the agenda that, what I said earlier, that Maori are indigenous to New Zealand and they are the great navigators, all at the same time. Well, it doesn't make sense. And they should be given special treatment, special favour. All Maori should be getting special favour and basically given taxpayers money to the tune of hundreds upon hundreds of millions a year that nobody knows where it goes. But where it does go is to the elites that become very, 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 very rich indeed. And the elites of New Zealand, of Maoridom, are the leaders of iwi. Iwi, if you're outside New Zealand, are tribes. So the very top of the pyramid of tribes and politicians become very, very rich indeed. And these people are pushing for co-governance of New Zealand. Pardon me. They're pushing for co-governance. Basically, they want 50-50 governance of New Zealand when they make up 16% of the population. And not one single Maori in New Zealand is Maori. They are all, every single one of them, without exception, mostly European. So all are more than 50. All Maori in New Zealand are all well over 50% European, with the least part Maori, but they call themselves Maori. It's just a fact. It's not racist, it's a fact. But apparently it is racist to say that in New Zealand, according to the media and academics and politicians, especially Chris Hipkins and the weak as piss opposition leader who's staring Prime Ministership in the face next election, Chris Luxon, who is a gutless, spineless wimp of a man who is desperate to get to Davos every year and meet Klaus Schwab and Yuval Noah Harari and Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio and Bono and Bob Geldof every year. And while he's flying there in his jet, private jet, supported by the New Zealand taxpayer, he wants us to walk everywhere. And that's basically the same in every nation, not just New Zealand. Apparently Dan Andrews, what I've been told this morning, he's going to be an Australian delegate or something for Davos. Dan Andrews. So he's been selected by the, I guess, the New Zealand, not New Zealand, the Australian Prime Minister, what's his name, Anthony Albanese, to be the Australian representative in Davos. Klaus Schwab. See, they're all singing from the same hymn book. They are all bought and paid for. They are all in the club or desperate to get in the club. I believe Dan Andrews was corrupted. I believe he went to China somewhere between 30 and 40 times and tried to sign up Victoria, a state in Australia, to the Belt and Road Initiative, independent of Australia. Would you believe that? And now he's going to be the Australian representative in Davos via the Australian government. Back to Winston Peters, New Zealand. I was never a big fan, and I feel, well, I voted for him when Jacinda came to power. I voted for Winston Peters, and I feel he really let me down. I'm not the only one, because Winston Peters has got a habit of saying things, getting into power, and then turning around and laughing at his supporters and calling them racists because they supported the things he said. Unfortunately, that's the reputation he's got. And I might be, I don't know, Einstein's theory of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Because I'm thinking of, well, I'm on two minds whether to vote for Liz Gunn or Winston Peters. Two minds. I mean, I've watched Terry O'Pine's videos. Terry O'Pine's a good mate of mine. Great YouTuber. Terry O'Pine's, look him up. And Terry O'Pine's as in opinions. Terry O'Pine's. He's made a few critical videos of Liz, but I think they have been good for Liz, to be honest, and whoever's advising Liz should listen to what Terry's saying, because she's got to be more forthright in what she's saying rather than emotional and say what she really means. But anyway, that's I'm not going. I've done my criticism of Liz, but she, like I said, I'm on the fence of who to vote for, Liz or Winston Peters, and I feel like Winston Peters just could let me down again. But anyway, I think I've covered what I needed to cover, because I'm just thinking on my feet basically, as you know. And I hope next year in the United States Trump wins, because that could change the world, unless they do a JFK on him before he gets there, which is quite possible in 2016, no 2020 should I say, when that dropkick that's in power now in the United States, the empty vessel, Joe Biden, came to power. I believe corrupt practices happened in that election, and I think Klaus Schwab, among many others, high-ranking Democrats, have their fingerprints all over it. I really do believe that. But anyway, I think things are going to change. Things are going to change, but it's just going to take a bit of time. More and more people need to wake up, and I do believe these same people who gave us all this, Klaus Schwab again, World Economic Forum, all behind it. All these people are all connected. If you like, I think Klaus Schwab is basically the unofficial ruler of the world, almost like a James Bond villain of the films of old, of Roger Moore and Sean Connery when they played James Bond. I really do believe that. And to be in his club and sell your soul to the devil, basically, you will become very, very successful in all your endeavours. However, you've lost all your integrity. Like all the people I've mentioned, even the movie stars and the pop stars I've mentioned, Bono, Bob Geldof, those types. They've sold their soul to the devil to become great successes in life, but they paid a heavy price for it. And I think that's what politicians around the world are doing now, including here in New Zealand. Because even David Seymour as well. I know a lot of you people outside New Zealand don't know these names I'm mentioning, but David Seymour, the little pipsqueak he is, he's desperate to get to Davos to meet Klaus Schwab. Please, please, let me in, let me in. Let me in the club, I'll do anything. I'll go through those oak doors. I won't tell the secrets. Let me in, let me be successful. Chris Luxon too. Among others. Okay, I think I've covered what I need to cover. I'll walk away from this video. I thought, oh, I should have said that, I should have said this. Doesn't matter. Okay, this is Cross the Rubicon. Please like, leave a comment. Subscribe to my channel, share this video everywhere. Okay, see you later.